What's going on, guys? My name is Joey, and welcome back to another video here on my channel. Today, I'm going to be giving you guys 3 meta builds for the winner of the past poll. Now, I just want to mention this is going to be obviously the last build before the old piece, as the old piece will be dropping tomorrow morning on December 10th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I am in Eastern Standard Time, so I will be most likely getting right into the update as quickly as I can. So yeah, now that I just quickly went over that, I will have more polls and things like that coming when I get into the update and I actually see what there is to offer, and then I'll have you guys decide what you guys want to see first. So getting into the Kompressa Prime. This is one of the best weapons in Warframe. It's the best single target primer in all of Warframe, as well as being a fantastic option for dealing things like DPS. And also in very different ways. Now, the way that this weapon functions is it's actually a bubble weapon. It's literally a bubble gun. It shoots bubbles. With a bunch of multi-shot, you can see here we have 10.8 multi-shot. You get pretty high multi-shot. You're going to shoot. A ton of bubbles are going to come out. The bubbles are going to attach to enemies, and they will deal this initial damage here with these status effects and this status chance. And then also, when the bubbles attach, they will then burst, dealing a radial attack that has this stat line here along with these status effects here and the status chance value. So this is something that you can put out an incredibly high amount of instances of damage with due to the fact that it has innate and secondary instance damage from the radial attack, which is going to be really, really nice for a lot of different kind of builds, whether it comes to status application or priming, like I was talking about before. So without just talking too much about this, we're going to actually get into the first build. Now, the first build I have for you guys, this is the primer setup. This is my go-to single target primer. If you ever watch any of my videos and you see me priming with my Kompressa in the simulacrum, things like that, this is the setup that I'm using here. I do have a ribbon with multi-shot and electricity that I usually use over the 60-60, but for the sake of you guys, I'm just going to have this 60-60 electric here. So this is what you guys can use instead. So what this is going to be doing for us is obviously it's going to be able to apply ridiculous instances of status damage or status effects. So we have really solid fire rate at 7.33 with also a 10.8 multi-shot, which I brought up before. So that 10.8 multi-shot obviously is now getting doubled because it has not only the first instance of damage, but it also has the second instance of damage. So this is going to be able to put out some really, really fast and high values with things like secondary and cumber. You're going to be able to get a ton of different status effects at. Now, the elemental combo that we go for on this is actually going to be flat, cold, corrosive, magnetic, and the weapon has innate viral, which is going to be really, really handy. Because viral is going to be giving us that 325% increased damage to HP, as well as corrosive is going to be reducing armor by up to 80% without any access to any green shards, things like that. Also, we have Magnetic on here. This is really, really nice for stripping things like Overguard and dealing that nice electric proc after it's done. And then Cold, obviously, is going to be able to fully freeze targets in place, making landing things like headshots extremely easy. I just want to mention if you are going up against Eximus units, you cannot stack more than 4 Cold stacks until the Overguard is gone. Break the Overguard, then you can stack more than 4 Cold stacks on the enemy and fully freeze them. So it's still an effective primer against things like Thrax units, though you're not going to be getting the full freeze effect instantly against them, which can be a bit annoying, but still, they're so easy to kill that it's not really going to make that much of a difference in that kind of scenario. This is more for like priming things like disruption units, really high value single target enemies that you need to take care of. So the actual build itself, we have Sure Shot on here. This is just for flat status chance. So we're going to go with this. We have Amalgam Barrel Diffusion on here. This is going to increase our dodge speed, which is our roll. All for the tiny price of 10% multi-shot. So the base multi-shot mod has, 120% multi-shot. This has 110, but we also get more than double speed of our dodges, which is really, really nice. So definitely would recommend that you guys use this on any utility weapon secondary that you have in your arsenal. Highly, highly recommend this. We go for 60-60s of Jolt and Pistol Pestilence. This is going to be Toxin Electric to give us Corrosive. We have Magnetic Might right here. This is going to be giving us another element in Magnetic to also bolster the CO values for weapons that we're going to be using alongside this that have CO. We have Lethal Torrent on here for fire rate plus multi-shot. This is, like I said, going to increase these values up here, our fire rate value and our multi-shot up to 10.8. And then we go for Augur Seeker on here, as this is going to give us 90% status duration, which already is going to be really, really nice for things that we're priming. It's going to prolong the amount of time that our prime is on these enemies. If you really need to slow things down or whatever it may be, if you need to set up before you actually deal a ton of damage with your weapon, this is nice because it'll take it from 6 to 11 seconds of duration. So would definitely recommend that you guys go for this, as well as it also has the 40 energy spent, or 40% energy spent on abilities is converted into shields. This is really, really nice. You don't have to run any auger mods or brief respite on your Warframe. All you need is obviously just the one auger mod, because Cata Shields is currently bugged, where you only need one shield versus your entire 100 some bar with catalyzing shields on. So you could have just a one shield break and you'll still get the full duration. So this is like your entire shield gating setup right here as well. So very, very nice to have this on your utility secondary weapons. And then we have Frostbite on here, 60-60 cold for the flat cold. Then we have Lethal Momentum, as this is a projectile weapon. So this is going to make the projectiles a bit quicker. We also go for secondary Encumber on here. As I said, we are going to be proccing a ridiculous amount of status effects with the weapon by itself. And what Encumber is going to do is, on status effect, there's a 24% chance to trigger a second random status effect. This could be any status effect in the game, further bolstering the value of your condition overload weapons. So very, very, very good to have this on your status primers. And on a weapon like this, it's going to apply so much status, you're going to see it right away. Highly, highly would recommend this. Alright guys, so now that I've gone over the first build, the showcase really isn't going to be much. It's really just going to be me showcasing to you guys what kind of prime you can get out of this. So just keep in mind that this weapon, it doesn't have any IPS. It is only these bubbles that we're going to be shooting out and exploding, and it's going to be the cold, the corrosive, the viral, and the magnetic damage. Every other element you see on here will be coming from secondary Encumber. So you can see we went from 4 elements to all of those elements there that we had. You can see that we get things on there like gas. We have IPS on there. We have electric on there. Even though the overguard didn't break yet, so that's not from magnetic. We have the magnetic procs on there. You can really just see that you get a whole bunch of different procs on here. And as far as bolstering your CO goes on like any sort of weapon that it may be, you can see here I have my Glaxian. I get some galvanized savvy stacks up here, and then you're going to be able to see kind of the damage that this thing can do to this. I wasn't really even planning on posting this in here, but you can kind of just see, I'm getting numbers like 2.9 million just from like a couple seconds, holding 7 million damage right there. So going from the primer to not the primer, you can see like I only need 2.4 on that enemy, about 3.5 to them. So you can see the primer does significant amounts of damage bolstering for you. It's going to be really, really great. You can see if I was to do something like Roar 2 on top of that, you can see like the damage we get out of this. Like, look at that, just absolutely ridiculous amounts of damage. 25 million damage on that enemy right there. So you can really see what we get out of having such a powerful utility item like this. Alright guys, so now that we've talked primers, which I feel is the main reason why a lot of people are going to use this weapon, I actually am going to be showing you guys that it is totally capable of being used as a damage dealing weapon. It will put out very, very high amounts of status still, so going for something like a status-based build is going to allow us to do significant amounts of damage. Now, first thing I just want to mention too, you can see that the majority of your damage comes from the radial attack rather than the exact projectile when it attaches. So you don't want to go for something like Galvanized Shot, because the direct damage is not going to be much. And it's not going to have any effect on the radial attack. So we just go for something like Hornet Strike instead for that flat 220% base damage. So what we end up going for on this build becomes Pistol Elemental. This is going to be our status damage multiplier, as heat is our main point of this build. We have a pretty solid weighting as well for what we can get here with the innate viral on this weapon. Just 2 heat mods allows us to get some pretty nice values here. We go for Hornet Strike, like I said, for that flat base damage. Prime Heated Charge for 165% heat. We go for Lethal Torrent, as Lethal Torrent is going to be providing us with 60% fire rate and 60% multi-shot. Scorch as well, this is going to be giving us some really nice and much wanted status chance that we're getting now that we're not getting from something like Galvanized Shot because we can't run it. So we're going to get the 60-60 heat here. This is going to give us more heat plus status chance. We have Galvanized Diffusion on here for big multi-shot stacking, as this is a high multi-shot weapon. We go for Prime Target Cracker on here to give us some nice critical damage. When you use Tenacious Bond, you get up to a 5x critical damage multiplier, which is very, very solid. And that is going to be important because we are using secondary Enervate on this build. This is going to give us flat CC stacking. And with all the secondary instances of damage that we have proccing, all the multi-shot we have, this is going to be stacking extremely quickly. Now, I've tried things like base damage in this slot, like things like Cascadia Flare, but results tend to be slightly worse than what I get with this. But that's just the way I've put the build together, so there may be a build out there that works a bit better in that regard. But also, the last mod we have on this build is going to be our Bane mod for our target faction, as this is really going to be your single target focus weapon type of build. You're going to be using this on your single targets, but you're going to be able to dish out ridiculous amounts of damage on these single target enemies without any external help. And I will be showing you alongside the external assistance as well. And then once again, we have lethal momentum on here to round out the build. I actually can go for the max on here. I must have changed a few things around on here. I didn't have room for it before. That's why I had a less ranked one on here, but now I can fit it. So yeah, this is the way the build will round out here. Alright guys, now that we've gone over the build, we're going to get into the showcase here. And what I'm going to be showing you guys, I'm just going to be spawning in some Manic Bombard Xmas so we can see that they're able to take some significant amounts of damage. If we just shoot heavy gunners with this, they're going to die instantly, and we're not going to be able to really see the kind of damage that we're dealing. So you can see with no stacks of multi-shot from our Galvanized, you can see we get some still pretty solid damage values out of this. We're getting about 1.3 million heat ticks out of this weapon. 1.7, 2.5, even the one behind him also had 1.7, so you can still see, even the ones next to them here, that guy 1.3 million, 1.3 million, the one behind him 1 million, so you can get some low value AoE out of this, but still mostly it's going to be regarded as your single target, but you can still see that something like this is capable of putting out significant amounts of heat damage. Just dots in general, you don't even need to go for heat, you can go for a different dot if you would like to. For me, I'm just a big fan of heat. Very, very powerful status effect in Warframe 2025. So yeah, you can just see the kind of damage that we deal here. 2.3 million, 1.6. Now, if you were to add something like a weapon buff on top of that, like say I was going to add Roar on top of that to give me that universal Bane boost, now you see we did 10 million to that guy. An enemy we barely hit in the back, we were doing 2.42. Let's see what kind of damage these guys take. 6 million damage on this enemy here. Now you can kind of see that the damage really ramps up when you add something like Roar to the equation. It gets really, really powerful. Now, yes, I am on Wisp, so my percentage is quite high. I'm at 164%, and I don't even have like any of my Bellicose stacking up or anything like that. I may end up dropping this Wisp build and a few others when the update comes out. In the coming weeks after the update comes out. I got a lot of new things to cover first, but I know I haven't covered Wisp yet on my channel, so I very well may cover a handful of builds. I do have almost all my configs being used currently on Wisp. So yeah, you guys can see here, it does very nice damage. Like I said, you want to add something like Roar on top of it, you'll do even more. And you're really not going to have any problem killing single target enemies with this weapon because of the amount of damage that it can deal. It's very significant. It's, able to abuse the really strong status effects that we have in the game, like heat, like electricity, if you want to use electricity instead. So you have options with something like this. So, don't sleep on this weapon as far as it goes as a damage dealer when it comes to dealing status effects, but I also have a flat damage, more instant damage kind of build coming up for you guys next, so stay tuned. Here comes that build right now. Alright guys, here we are. This is going to be the final build of the video, but this is going to be another banger for you guys. Now I just want to mention, do not use this build without Sunder, or if you're going to use it without Corrosive, and you're like playing Saren, then put Blast on here instead. Very, very important that you have Blast on this build, as the Corrosive mainly is just here to strip the armor so the Blast can deal more damage, as well as really the reason why the Viral's here is to help the Blast deal more damage. So as far as the build goes itself, kind of the same here. We have Pistol Elementalist for that status damage multiplier. We have Hornet Strike for 220% base damage. We have Pistol Pestilence and Jolt on here to give us Corrosive. Lethal Torrent on here for fire rate plus multi-shot. Galvanized Diffusion for big multi-shot stacking. primed target cracker, as once again we are using secondary enervate, so we'll be getting some nice crits out of this. And then also, once again, we'll be using primed expel Grenier for that target faction damage. This is going to be very, very important to any blast damage build. Being able to double dip on the blast is going to be extremely vital and allow you to do significantly more damage than you'd be able to do with anything else really in this slot. We round it out once again with lethal momentum, and then we have secondary enervate, as I said, as our arcane to give us those free, flat, quick stacking critical chance. Alright guys, so to show this one off, I am going to be here on Gauss, just so I have easy access to Thermal Sunder, and also access to my Zataz Whisper build to show you guys what it looks like with some serious buffing going on the side of the Warframe. So let's get into this right now. So what I'm going to do, just like always, we're going to spawn in these Manics so we can do some significant damage. If we're just killing heavy gunners, you know, a lot of weapons can just kill heavy gunners. If these can actually kill Manics, it's very impressive. So you're going to notice right away what I'm going to do is I'm not even going to use any of the other Gauss buffs. All I'm going to use is my Sunder buff. So you can see now that we have Blast on here, we actually can kind of blender these enemies with Nautilus. As long as we get their overguard off. Now keep in mind too, in most scenarios, you're not just going to be in the middle of a group with 20 enemies that all have overguard. And you would also see here that the single target isn't all that great, but that's why it's nice to have something where you can group like Nautilus, because it allows you to create this blender. So you can see here, really, it's the blast damage is really doing the most work out of everything. If I was to go into my Warframe setup real fast and just swap out just so my blast drops off and I show you guys, you really don't deal any damage. It's almost like this entire build is like supplemental to the blast. You can see that I'm able to get through the overguard, but you really don't deal any damage to the actual enemies themselves. But then you can see once you incorporate in something like blast, then all of a sudden you start dealing these really ridiculous kinds of damage numbers and deleting packs of enemies like this. Now, like I was saying too, you could even use something like Zataz on top, and then you get like, you know, you're gonna get, basically you're getting, for every instance of damage, you're getting another instance of damage. So on the initial tick, you're getting another instance of damage, and then on the secondary tick, you're gonna get another instance of damage. These instances are gonna be void damage, but still, you can kind of just see, like, look at the damage that we get out of these. Look at the amount of ticks that we get off this. Like, look, I just shot him a couple times. Look at all those damage procs on there. I mean, absolutely ridiculous amount of damage you can get out of this with something like Zataz Whisper. Very, very powerful helmet ability overall, and really just a very powerful weapon overall. There's a lot of different ways that I've shown you guys that you can use this. Primarily, I use it as a primer, but it is just so fantastic in a lot of different ways. You can build it in a ton of different ways. So, just to show you guys that it has options, here are these really, really nice builds for you guys. So, alright guys, so with that being said, those are the 3 meta builds. Now, before I close out the video, I just want to mention that I am ready for Old Peace. Like I said, it's going to be coming out tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So when that drops, I'm going to be all over it. I'll be getting a ton of different things done, and then once I get my hands and ideas wrapped around a few of these new things they have in the game, I'll be posting polls for you guys to see and vote on for what you guys want to see me cover first. I want to make sure I get familiar with the things that I'm going to be giving you guys information on before I just jump into it on day one, because I don't feel like I'll be able to give you guys accurate information. As much as I'd love to give you guys those day one videos, I just don't think I'm ready to give you guys a day one video on this update because there's so much new stuff that I'm not even aware of yet. So I just want to get my head wrapped around everything. And then I'm going to get brainstorming for you guys. But I promise you, everything that's new in this update, I will be covering. No matter how long or how many weeks it takes for me to go through all of it, I'll be covering all of it. All the focus schools, all the new changes, the new frames, the new arcanes, everything, all new kinds of builds for you guys. So keep an eye out for that. And if you guys stayed till this far in the video, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening to me talk all this time. I appreciate you guys watching my video. Leave a sub, leave a like down below, leave a comment. Let me know what you guys thought. I'll hear from you guys when I get back on this next video. And peace.